and welcome to Nathan, but the truth. All right, you guys, did a hiatus for a while there. Um, just kind of let things ride out. I noticed you guys showing your trauma in the media and on social media and throughout the United States, and I wanted to address that without offending my people because I'm talking to my people specifically. And you're a victim, okay? And the one thing that really hate doing is putting myself in a position where I'm kicking a dog when he's down. Because there has been times in my life where I've suffered through financial difficulties and emotional difficulties, social difficulties, things like that. And it was well aware of my social circle. And there would be instances in people in my social circle that would seize upon that and essentially, as they say, kick a dog when he's down, you know, come and gloat or say little things that just get up under your skin instead of offering the emotional support, the psychological support that I would need in that time. And so right now, in describing your situation, it's going to appear that that's what I'm doing to my people. Okay, the men, the women, the children of African descents of slavery, adults, and I'm not. So hear me out and let me finish so that you can understand where my heart truly is. In doing so, we're going to talk about the battered wife syndrome. Um, I became well aware of the battered wife syndrome um, during the early to mid 80s when it was the talk show explosion. Okay. Now, when I was young, I used to love watching Phil Donahue morning shows. And he brought out a lot of stuff. Okay. And as time went on, they realized that Phil Donahue talk show, it's a talk show, was moving all across the country. Okay. And the world, those countries that picked up that talk show, they found it very enlightening because he brought people on his show that spoke to issues that you could not get in any other media platform. And people were allowed to express themselves. Well, then all of a sudden, here come all these other talk shows. And one, the most notably, was the Oprah Winfrey Show. And one of the things that Oprah Winfrey wanted to bring to light was um, the battered wife syndrome, um, domestic issues she wanted to deal with. And that was the number one. Um, the the abuse, um, children abuse. Okay, she brought up domestic violence, and let's be clear: domestic violence and spousal abuse are two different animals. People don't realize that. Two different animals. Do you know domestic violence? 75% of the domestic calls that police encounter are not spousal, meaning husband and wife or live-in partners or this. It is family. Domestic violence is a cancer in America and probably in other countries as well. People living too closely with one another, and they have spats with one another, and it can get out of hand. That's domestic violence. So don't be confused. Um, Spousal abuse. Okay, battered wife is spousal abuse. Okay, the battered wife syndrome And you can take 4 years of college majoring in psychology, and it won't be until you're postgraduate when you start learning about battered wife syndrome. It's that complex. It is very deep. So none of us laymen, such as myself, can walk around here and say we know about the battered wife syndrome, because that is a psychology that is baffling. It baffles law enforcement. It baffles the judicial system, because what you have is, see, first of all, when you talk about abuse, okay, call a man an abuser, or say that there's an abuser in a home, okay, that's a one-way fight. Okay, domestic violence is two-way. See, Shanae and Pookie, when they go at it, Shanae is getting the best of Pookie sometimes. Sometimes Pookie, he got to go to the hospital. Sometimes Shanae, they both sitting up there. I've seen cases where one was sitting on one ambulance, one was sitting on the other getting treated. That's domestic violence. Because Shanae in no way is an abused wife. Okay? She's not abused. She's not a battered wife. Okay? Because Shanae fights back. The battered wife don't. The battered wife has no history of fighting back. Okay? It's one way. And I needed to clear that up going forward so that you won't get confused. I don't want any of you guys getting confused, because I'm going to make some statements concerning the black community and spousal abuse. And it's going to be rather shocking to a lot. But going forward, why I make the kinship with the African Americans and the battered wife syndrome is because African Americans are textbook battered wives, textbook men, women alike, textbook battered wife. It was in the 80s, the reason I knew, honed in on it, the shows that featured it and stuff and talked about it, was because I worked with a woman whose husband would literally come to the job, okay, and attack her and beat her. I worked government. That was a government installation. It was a post office in my hometown. And we had postal inspectors. We had, quasi security kind of. But anyway, police would arrive. And this would happen time after time after time. If I, even a postal employee or as a civilian, walked into a government installation and attacked a government employee, I'd be facing charges, federal charges. But this man never got charged, and we was baffled. The other guys on the floor was just baffled. Why won't they do anything? Because she demands that we don't. She said that he didn't do anything, that, this and that. And so, and this man was not a government employee, his wife was. She was a letter carrier. And he was beating the crap out of her. At lunchtime, he'd pull up. If she wasn't out, okay, and let's just guess and say 12 o'clock lunch. If she wasn't out that door at 12 and 15 seconds, he was enraged. Okay. He would pull up and see us other men walking out and be staring at us. Okay? She better not look any of our way. We couldn't talk to her and have that camaraderie that we had with the other employees, men or women. Nobody was able to even talk to her, because we knew if we said anything to her, she was going to get beat. This was her life. And police would always be called to her home. She would be off work sometime, weeks at a time, because she'd be in the hospital recovering and then sent home to recover from the abuse that she was receiving. They had children. I think later she transferred the job because he was going to get a job, I guess, in Texas, which had no laws for spousal abuse. Okay, at that time. We're talking in the 80s. Okay. They went out there to work, and within, I guess, 6 or 7 months, we get word that she had died. And the story we heard was the kids. Now, they had children, and their children were not so young that they couldn't tell what was going on in the home. But remember, he was an abuser. So not only did he abuse her, he abused the children. And they were of an age, okay, that they could have spoken out, but they were fearful. And what they had told us was is that she lay in the house dead for 5 days, said he would had her in the bedroom, close and lock the door, and the kids weren't allowed to go in. Mommy's sick, don't go in the room. And so the kids would not go in the room. So after about 5 days, one of the younger kids, because some of them were preteen or teens, went to the neighbors and said, we can't go in the room where mommy's at and it stinks real bad. And, so the neighbor come rushing over there to see what was going on and said that they opened the door and the smell of decomp hit them so hard. She's in there laying in the bed dead, beaten to death. She never spoke up. She never got free. Now, in that time that she was being beaten, women that we work with, we seen them. They'd go up to her counseling, helping her, trying to help her. Women would come in, co-workers of hers, and, she'd have bruises and stuff, and they kind of bandage her arm or whatever and put like, I guess a potato or lemon or something, some kind of whatever to lower the swelling. I remember them trying to do little home remedy first aids. I worked with a lot of Appalachians and Southerners, which means black and white women, from using those homemade concoctions, trying to patch her up. And they tell us, girl, you need to leave him. You could have a better life. You and them kids just go. Anything is better than this. I've heard women even say that out loud to her. Now let's understand, okay? Them talk shows was going on educating us about what these battered women were going through. So a lot of people was picking up on that and realizing it was a serious situation. And these women were not willing to just up and bolt. They would say, make excuses. Oh, he'll just find me, or it'll be worse the next time, and this and that. And so this was the fear that they played with, and toyed with, or toiled with. Because when you're trying to reach out and help someone and trying to make them understand that their situation is dire, that they need to resist at all costs, it's hard. That psychology is so deep. When you're trying to tell somebody, pack up and go. You got to go. I'll help you. And I mean, I even heard women sit up and tell this woman, they gathered up money one time during payday, And back then we made pretty good money, but some of them women was willing to get that girl their whole paycheck. Don't worry, I got family in this state. I'll send you and the kids. You guys take this money. And the woman would turn around and go home and give him the money. That happened. I swear to God it happened. And the women at work started crying. They were crying. Not mad at her for giving the money away, that they had went and sacrificed all that money. They were crying for her and her mental condition. What is different from that battered wife and the black men and women of the United States of America? In the United States of America, you have been battered, you have been beaten, you have been just trodden, you have mocked. Young black boy walking, just walking. Now he's deaf and he has cerebral palsy and he's walking. I've seen the video, it's on right now. He's just walking, minding his own business. Cops pull up, jump out, yell, taser, taser, taser. I mean, they were yelling taser before they even got out of the damn car. This man is walking in a way that you know he's no threat to anybody. And when they ran at him, he was so scared he crouched down. As they start pummeling him, they just start beating him. That was the first thing they started doing, beating him. And that man right now today is being charged with resisting arrest, assault upon an officer, and a few other felony charges. You might say that's a joke. It's more of a joke when you hear the backstory. Guess what? There was an incident that happened at a restaurant nearby where this man was walking. And it involved a white man who went in and cussed out everybody or threatened the employees or whatever. When the police arrived, that white man was outside of the restaurant and he told the police, "Oh, there's the guy you're looking for," which was the black guy that was just walking and had his back to all of them. He didn't even know. And the police immediately, now they had gotten a report that it was white male, got his full description. So they knew they were looking for a white male, but they seen that black man and went in rage. The culprit, the bad guy, is now standing there gloating and smiling. If he had a gun, he could have killed both of them cops because they turned their back to him and went to run after the black man that was walking. And that's the backstory. That happened in Phoenix, Arizona. Weeks later, Kamala Harris gets down there and won't mention it. You know why she won't mention it? Because she would have lost the election the day she had brought that up. Because the voters that are voting for her, that are propping her up, are white. Okay? White people, they're very protective of white privilege. And the fact that black people have no constitutional rights. See, police take an oath to the Constitution. Prosecutors take an oath to the Constitution. Judges take an oath to the Constitution. And all of them unilaterally violate the constitutional rights of any black person that gets caught up in your judicial system. Now, everything that he was charged with post the initial charge of resisting arrest, which means the pre-charges, there's no pre-charges to it resisting arrest, thus telling you that his rights were violated from the very start, because you can't resist arrest, which means you're being arrested. What are you being arrested for? That's the ultimate question. See, that's the conundrum. This is every black in America has no constitutional rights. I say that all the time because what I'm trying to get blacks to understand, you guys are getting excited over this election and post-election, okay? your battered wives, because you're going to make every damn excuse to sit up and explain why you need to save a sinking ship. Now, what happened to me, and I won't say any names, I made reference on social media about Kamala Harris and my disdain for how she treated African American males. Now, all of a sudden, right before the election, when they realize black men are not voting and not wanting to vote for her, all of a sudden, she wanting to get them a little piece of the crumbs from the cake. Okay, and then the insult, the injury, want to give them weed. Okay, let me state it clear. The lowest demographic to using drugs is black males. That's the lowest. I mean, when you rake it by highest, who uses the drugs in the United States, illicit drugs, black males are at the very, 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 very bottom. Marketing. Snoop Dogg has made damn near $1 billion from trying to get black males to smoke weed. As the one from Louisiana, what's his name? Oh God, I forget his name. I'm not into the rap genre, but those guys in their rap videos trying to promote weed selling or weed use can't get blacks to use it. Can't even really get them to sell it because when they really get into it and they realize there's no money in it, none. Okay, because by the time it touched their hands, it had been through 4 or 5 different hands, and it's lost its appeal for financial gains. Because if you watch Shark Tank, these are billionaires investing in people's ideas, and some of the people have some of the greatest ideas, but there's something called profit margin. And I have seen people with some of the greatest ideas, and that billionaire look at them and say, "What's the profit margin?" Profit margin is what it takes to make it, all the energy and everything into making it. Then what it sells for. Where's the margin of profit? Okay. And a wise investor is not going to go less than a 70% profit margin. That means if it sells for, um, let's say, $100, okay, $70 better be going in the bank. Okay. That profit margin better be pretty interesting because, see, they're in it for the money. Marijuana don't have a profit margin. That guy you buying little $10 and $5 little whiffs of weed, there's no profit margin. The profit margin is like maybe 5 or 6%. So he's broke all the time. That's why he resorts to stealing and not paying back the bigger dope dealers, and so they end up in turf wars and stuff like that. Um, because he wasn't making any money. There's no money in it. There's no profit margin. So black men are excluded from that. And but media wise, they're touted as the problems in the drug industry. They're the drug dealers. They're created, and it's uh, uh, um, promoted by the music industry because they get these fools to get up and promote, act like they big time drug dealers. Why would you want to deal drugs when you're in a multi-million-dollar industry making millions and millions of dollars and you can't make that in drugs? Okay. You can't, because they can't go down to Mexico and create a pipeline and send them drugs up. You're talking metric tonnage, okay? Not just regular standard tonnage. You're talking metric tonnage, 1,200 pounds per ton. Okay, that's a metric ton. And we're talking hundreds of them at a time. Only people can do that is some alphabets in DC. They prove that. They tell you that every day. They tell you how they went down there in Mexico and started doing drug trades to try to get the weapons to Iran. They tell you that. They sold the drugs on the street, and they still sell the drugs on the street. The DEA, the reason the Justice Center Department didn't go after Obama's administration when those DEA agents got killed, because those DEA agents, okay, was moving tonnage for the federal government. And that would have blew up in their face, because those cartel, they don't care. They just say, hey, who was buying? Those some of our best dealers.